Tuesday, not Thursday yet. September 22nd, 2020 edition of the Clemson Dubcast. Open week edition as Clemson looks back on its 2-0 start with dismantlings of Wake Forest and the Citadel. That second team offense, I guess specifically the second team offensive line, definitely getting the most attention, I guess, under the microscope between now and the primetime visit from Virginia. It's really no surprise. I mean, Dabo Swinney predicted this weeks and weeks ago, but still, those boys got a long way to go. We got plenty of analysis of that on TigerIllustrated.com and some good content coming up for the rest of the week and weekend and then heading into game week next week. Title sponsor of the Dubcast since the very beginning, back in August of 2018, Parham Smith & Archenhold Law Firm in downtown Greenville. They want you to know that their office remains open and available to serve you during the COVID-19 crisis. They are also offering their clients the ability to meet via telephone or through video conferencing. Whether you have a loved one who has suffered from a car accident, defective product, a neglectful nursing home facility, or medical malpractice issue, Parham Smith & Archenhold's Greenville lawyers can provide the protection and guidance you need. Free consultations, 864-990-4581, or on the web at parhamlaw.com. That's PARHAM law.com. Football season is grilling season, and Jack Oliver's Pool, Spa, and Patio is South Carolina's premier source for the big three names in grills: Weber, Traeger, and my favorite, the Big Green Egg. Make the most of your stay-at-home tailgate party with a premium gas, charcoal, or pellet grill from Jack Oliver's. Their 10,000 square foot showroom offers a huge selection of grills, patio furniture, and hot tubs and saunas. Shop in the store or buy online at Jack Oliver's Pool, Spa, and Patio, 3303 Forest Drive in Columbia, and jackoliverpools.com. If you're in the Eastern Midlands and PD area and you're in any way interested in buying and selling a home, commercial property, land, need to consider reaching out to Uptown Realty. They're based out of Sumter and run by a friend of mine, Patrick Enzer, big Clemson guy, used to cover the Tigers in a newspaper capacity, longtime supporter of Tiger Illustrated, longtime listener to the Dubcast. The home buying process should be an enjoyable experience, so let Patrick and his staff do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 803-774-0435 or go to uptownrealtysc.com. Okay, to our conversation, a wonderful chat with Clemson legend Woody Dantzler, a force of nature on the field during his career and a force of change off it. Really impressive guy. Hope you enjoy. Okay, joined by the legendary Woody Dantzler, whose face I looked up and saw on the Jumbotron Saturday. I guess you were an honorary captain with Anthony Simmons?
Yes, that's what it was. Both he and I were honorary captains, so that was pretty neat how they did that.
So you got to do it from the comfort of your own home?
Exactly. That's always good, especially on a Saturday.
Good. Well, so the last time you and I talked was over the summer when you participated in a sort of a Where Are They Now series of articles we did at TigerIllustrated.com. And I got to say, it was one of the most profound and memorable articles that we did in the whole 40-part series, just hearing you reminisce about your time at Clemson and how it was your most powerful sort of memories were off the football field and the new experiences that you were able to gather and different people you were able to meet and just sort of the normal, the typical college experience. And then you talking about the mentoring that you do and the motivational speaking. So I guess we could start just by maybe giving an overview of where you are. I guess you're in Greenville with your wife and two kids, and you're in pharmaceutical sales while also doing motivational speaking. Am I getting all that right?
Yeah, you're getting it all right. You're spot on.
Okay. How long have you been doing the pharmaceutical sales profession?
It's been 7 years. It'll be 8 in January, which will be right around the corner.
Gotcha. And then your participation and efforts to work with the children, school children, in learning and things like that. Can you maybe enlighten on exactly what you're doing there and your motivations there primarily?
Well, I've learned over my years, just seeking out wise counsel and people that's poured into me. And it dawned on me and it was instilled in me the fact that each generation is to build up to a certain point. And then after that, they're setting the bar for the next generation to take the baton and run further. But what has happened in the recent years is, you hear about the generational gap, where the different generations aren't connecting properly. And there's so many different variables that goes into that is unheard of. But the biggest thing for me is I understand one of those variables that plays a big outcome in, the connection between the generations, but then also the continuous passing of the baton is education. So education and development. Too many of our young kids are just being kind of left to the side or not really paid attention to some of the policies and different things in the school system. They got a broad view, but they don't really dig down into the core of really educating our kids. And when you think about education, you define education as being able to learn information and apply it to a situation. Too many times now, our kids, they memorize information and regurgitate it to pass a test. They haven't really learned it. If the time came, they don't know how to apply it. Those critical thinking skills are almost obsolete. They don't allow kids to be able to think through situations, think through problems, and come up with a viable solution. These things are all, you learn that in school. So one of the things that I focus a lot of my attention on is the school system, and then just kids in general, young people, be it from middle school on up through high school, college. Just begin to open their minds and have these conversations with them. And a lot of times it's just that. It's not me trying to teach anything in particular. It's just a fact of sitting down and having a conversation with a young person. And you'll be surprised at how intelligent they are, how well they articulate. So just the specifics on what I do is just being able to unlock individuals' minds. When it all boils down to it, my goal is to get individuals to be able to learn information to apply to the education system. But overall, my goal is to be able to allow individuals to unlock, the skill set and greatness they have in them. Recognize it first, unlock it, and then begin to walk in it. So that's what I'm all about. Getting them to recognize what they have, get them to unlock it, and then get them to be able to walk in it. That's what we talk about education and development.
When did you have the revelation that these specific things needed to change, and what was the revelation, if you can recall?
I can't speak to exactly when. Maybe it was in 99 or 2000, because I just remember having those conversations with Darren Bruce. He was a team chaplain at the time. He was the one who really introduced me to Jesus for real. And he kind of connected the dots where I think I began to get the revelation, because I can remember even going back to the conversation I had with my dad, because he was very instrumental in the way that I think and the way that I move. Because I would, as always, I say, I'd ask him a question. He would never give me an answer. He would answer my question with the question. And over time, I learned that what he was doing was pushing me to think through the process and think through critically for myself. And just when I was sitting under, Darren Bruce at Clemson, he was the one who recognized my gifts. He was the one who recognized my ability to lead truly. He was the one who recognized, my ability as an orator and to capture people's attention as a teacher and those different things. He recognized those. He began to pull those things out of me. And maybe, I can't lock down a specific date, but I actually began to notice, and maybe more so, especially when I got into the league, and began to see how, these 5, 6, 10-year veterans are gravitating to me. And, we're talking through things as if, I'm the crafty veteran, but I'm 1 year, 2 years in, but I'm being able to speak into these guys' lives, and bring about perspectives that they haven't seen. So When it started, I don't know. I just began to notice these different things. And then once I got out of the league, I really began to focus in on, once I was done with football, probably about 2010, is when I really began to focus my efforts in on really getting established enough to begin to help people become the best version of themselves. And it really took flight probably about 2015 when I began to map out a plan. 2018 is when I launched my LLC, begin to really do things. Because all this time I have been speaking, I have been talking, I have been mentoring, I've been doing, but it was nothing really official. So, now that I have my LLC, there's an official capacity to it, and I'm moving in circles and I'm learning different ways to go about things. So that's kind of how all this came together. The seed was planted by my father. It was nurtured and developed by Darren Bruce. And then from there, just different people that I came across in my life began to allow me to grow even more.
It's one thing to identify something sort of broadly that needs changing, but it's a whole other notion to actually take action and to engage with the people who you need to engage with to create that change. And I remember you telling me you've been working with the city council in Greenville, the school board, the principals in different schools to talk about curriculums and policies. Can you share what that has been like in terms of interacting with these governing bodies and administrators?
Yeah, it's one of those things of, I'm glad that patience is one of my virtues, because when you get in, one of the best examples that I've heard, you talk about a big cruise ship, and it takes a while, you turn that rudder, it takes a while for that big cruise ship to make a turn, so it's one of those things of, I play a small part in this big old cruise ship, and being able to get in and understand. The first part of it is really getting in and understanding, how things work. So many times, we'll have what we think is the right way to do something. We'll go in and say, all you got to do is this. Well, why don't they just do that? And then you actually get into the meat of it, and you realize, as I mentioned, by the time it gets to the actual school, it's basically set in stone, because, again, it came from, yes, the district, Greenville County schools, but Greenville County schools got it from the South Carolina Board of Education. The South Carolina Board of Education, that went through the House and the representatives, and that came down from Washington. So you got all these different channels and all these different committees and different people that are involved in these decisions. And by the time it gets down here, it's pretty much too late. So learning how to get in front of these bills and learn how to understand, when Congress and when our representatives are actually, drafting these bills and what they're wanting to do to be able to sit in and learn. There's so many different facets that you have to understand. So the first part of it is just, understanding the information, understanding how things work, and that takes time. And then by the time you get a good understanding of it, now you got to be able to begin to work through the process, because it is a process. Just like anything else, it is a process. So being patient and being strategic and understanding how to control what you can't control, it takes patience, it takes diligence, it takes discipline, and it takes a team effort. It takes some humility as well, because, you're gonna learn that some stuff you're not going to be able to get accomplished. You have to say it takes compromise. It takes so many different things that you notice that a lot of guys in our society today are absent in these conversations, because it's just, this is what I want, and that's it. Compromise is a forgotten thing. Humility is a forgotten thing these days. Discipline to continue to do what's right because it's right, regardless of what everyone else is doing, is about a forgotten thing these days. So just being able to get in there and learn, and then be able to maneuver to make things happen. It's just a process that you have to work through. But it's a fun one, because I enjoy learning. I enjoy challenges. So that's how that works.
Can you articulate maybe specifically on what you're happiest about as far as the progress you've made on a certain thing that you identified at the beginning? compared to sort of where things are now, maybe an advancement or some gains that you've made through all your efforts. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. One of the things, it's a lot of times just those small victories, just to be in a conversation with the principal or an administrator, and for them to say, "Oh, I didn't consider that." It's just something as simple as, I know we were talking about recognizing teachers. I remember getting in the front of that conversation, and I think it was last year when it was passed where, the minimum wage for teachers went up. That was a big win. And I'm not going to say that I caused that to happen, but because that was already in the works before I really got involved. But to be able to get in that conversation and, talk through that, but then also recognizing that, just at the local elementary school, the teachers did not have a planning period. So they're working all day and they didn't really have a plan. And when they got to do their lesson plans and different things like that, they're doing that, when they can. Sometimes the teachers, the actual, you'll get volunteers to come in and sit with the teachers' class during lunch just to be able to do some work or some administrative stuff that they had to do. So being able to start that conversation and allow them to recognize, hey, this is something that we might need to look into. And now that, teachers actually have a planning period. Well, it's a whole lot different now because we got COVID and all these different things now, but still with the virtual schooling, but being able to allow them, because one thing that I recognize is you think about it as a parent, you work hard all day and you come home and you're working on fumes, but you got kids and, a spouse to deal with, and you're giving them fumes, you're not very effective. So our teachers were being overworked, they were being stretched thin, but we got them in charge of educating our children. And that's where it starts. You've got a disgruntled teacher, you got a tired teacher, you got a stretched thin teacher. They're giving fumes to our kids. And now our kids are taking those fumes and they're developing those fumes, which is pretty much nothing. And it affects their growth, it affects their development. So being able to recognize that made a huge difference, and to see that implemented, in the schools made a huge difference. And then also being able to get out in front of, the breaking down that communication barrier between parents and teachers. Again, being able to have them understand, we have the PTA, but the PTA wasn't really speaking to the need of bringing both the parents and the teachers together to have let the parents understand what the teachers go through. Let the teachers kind of understand a little bit more what the parents go through, so bridging that gap to allow them to be able to understand one another, because both of them are invested in that child's growth and development. So those are two things that I would point out that I would say I had a hand in and allowing to happen, here in our local schools, which has been great.
Is this district-wide, or are there specific schools you've been working with?
Well, it's district-wide, not really district-wide on the sense. So, I got a couple of people that I talked to within the school district and the board of directors for Greenville County, but more so just the two schools in which my daughters attend here in the upstate, the high school and the local elementary school. Well, I don't know what you want to call it. It's the elementary and middle school combined. So I sit on those, like I said, I sit on those improvement councils. I sit on the councils for both of those schools. So those are more specific because I have my daughters there and I have a little vested interest in it, and it is my community. So that's where I start first. Have been working on district-wide school improvement council to where we get in all the schools in Greenville County, working together to make and show support for one another in efforts to make a streamlined plan to have our kids grow and develop the best way possible. So that's something I've been working on. It kind of got put on pause again last year when everything shut down, but I'm about to re-engage that to get that going again.
You touched on this a few minutes ago, but in the pandemic era, I guess, for lack of better terms, with your finger on the pulse of these teachers and what they're going through, what is this I mean, you could argue they were vastly underpaid pre-pandemic, and now they're just having to deal with a whole host of new challenges and variables and responsibilities and pressures. What is this like for them here in late September of going through this?
It's just a lot of uncertainty. This is precedent. They're trying new things. You work with virtual. Some you got virtual students. Some you got in-class students. Some of you have both virtual and in-class. So it's it can put a strain on a teacher. But at the very same time, we got to be able to, one, understand what they're going through, but then also still, as administrators, allow them to still have a standard set. Just like with anything else, what happens that I recognize is, the standard gets so blurred, or the requirements of what a teacher should do, how a teacher should act, how a teacher should conduct themselves. Yes, we understand you're under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, but, no different than, if a parent was on a lot of pressure and stress or feeling some kind of way about something, there's still a standard in the way you are to conduct yourself. So that's some of the things that you kind of really want to work through. You got teachers, for the most part, you have, those great teachers. You talk about everything else. You have good teachers, and you have those teachers that are just there. So being able to work through those processes to make sure that teachers have what they need to make sure they're able to do what they're called to do, what they enjoy doing, is a fine balance. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot on them. And then in the other vein of it, I like to put this thing out when I talk to people. I said, this is what you chose to do. And when you choose to do something, you got to recognize what all that entails. So you must be prepared for and prepared to walk through, the good times and the bad times, the rough. So just having those conversations to be able to support the teachers and what they have going on, to make sure that they are upholding the standard. And then for those who unfortunately can't handle what's happening, then for the benefit of the children, because that's what it all boils back down to. It boils down to the children. If the teacher cannot handle it, then, there's another conversation that needs to be had. Because if you got a teacher in there who's just not really conducting themselves properly, I'll just say it that way, then, like I said, another conversation needs to be had. But to address what you just mentioned, it's a lot. And I'll say it that way. It is a lot. It's a lot of change. But we as human beings, we have the ability to adapt to change and thrive in change with the right mindset, with the right support, and with the right resources. So that's what it's all about, providing the right support, the right resources, and actually make sure we're fostering the right mindset for the teachers, administrations, and then the parents as well, because it's all working together for the benefit of the child.
I don't know if you saw this, but recently the University of Georgia football team, as part of sort of a broader effort to improve their community for the good in Athens, they had a fundraiser in which they raised, I think it was $40,000 for Athens area children who did not have internet access at home to purchase hotspots for them. Wonderful gesture, of course, but I'm wondering how much of an issue that is in your area, in the Greenville area, with some kids who are doing it virtually or want to do it virtually, not having the means to do so.
Yeah, one of the things, you're right, and I don't know the exact number on, but I know it was prevalent, because I remember when they first shut down, what they did, they allowed for the school buses to go in certain areas and certain neighborhoods, because they had Wi-Fi on the buses, so the kids can go to the bus and actually do their work on the bus. And then you see the stories of the kids. I saw one article where these kids were sitting outside of a Starbucks, using a Starbucks Wi-Fi so they could do their homework. And the story just talked about how the manager came out, saw the kids out there, checked on them, allowed them to come inside, so they could do their work, because again, they didn't have Wi-Fi at home. So just being able to recognize those situations and devise a plan to get it covered. But I think that's a huge, I might steal that and kind of present that to some people that I know and see if we can get that going. But the numbers, I'm sure the school has those numbers. And there's another organization here that, does a lot of research with the kids in the school system. So that's something I'm going to steal from Georgia. I'm writing it down right now and see about really getting some of those exact numbers and see what can be done to help. Because you're right, in this virtual environment, if you don't have access to internet, then these kids can really fall behind in a devastating way, and we can't allow that to happen.
I think I saw something, I hope I'm getting this number right, but that after, in South Carolina, after everything got shut down in the spring, that the state of South Carolina basically just lost track of 10,000 kids. Like, they had no idea where their whereabouts. Like, it was just really depressing and scary.
Yep. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't check in. They wouldn't go to class. I mean, you don't see them in. These kids are smart these days. They do different things with a computer. I saw where, you change your picture to connecting. So now the teacher thinks that you have an internet issue, but you just change your picture, so you've gone somewhere else. Just stuff like that. But and that just speaks to being able to reach out in the community, because family structures is not what it used to be. And that's another big issue, that I'm highly involved in, just being able to restore the family, and provide resources for them. That's a whole nother monster that, you want to attack. But that's another part that plays, because if mom's at work or dad's at work, or, you just got mom or you just got dad and they're at work and you're home by yourself, and then, who's really going to hold me accountable to what's going on? And you look back at, maybe the teachers can do it, but when the teachers got 20, 30 other kids, they're trying to teach virtually and these type of things. And they got their own kids that, as they're teaching, they got kids running around their own house. So it's such an interesting dynamic that a lot of people don't think through. And it's really going to take some heads coming together, which they already are coming together. But sometimes those voices are too similar. So you need, people talk about diversity, we diversity and include. But one of the things about diversity that, is overlooked is the diversity of thought, is the diversity of ideas. Nowadays, if your idea or your thoughts are different than mine, then, you can't even have a conversation. You go to the point to where you actually hate that individual because y'all think differently. That's what's really failing. Yeah, we talk, because people, again, we talk about diversity. People think black, white, brown, and all this. Diversity of thought is one that's really forgotten and overlooked, and not really brought to the forefront, because that's what's needed. That diversity of thought, and that's where critical thinking comes in, and that's when breakthroughs take place, when you have a high diversity of thought of individuals coming together for a common goal to produce change.
Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith & Archambault. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. If you're a business owner and your business involves credit card processing, you need to reach out to Tandem Innovative Payment Solutions. A lot of different ways that Tandem can improve your bottom line by shaving off some of those expenses. In addition to processing credit card payments, Tandem also manages inventory, schedules staff, tracks sales, gains insight into customers, and gets transaction reports. With Tandem, you're not a number, you're a neighbor. Learn more about Tandem at tandempayment.com. And you still work some with Clemson's football program. I guess you serve as a mentor to some of their football players. Is that right?
Yes.
I guess this is a terribly general question, but we'll start with it. what do you make, and what did you make of the summer that Dabo Swinney specifically, but also the Clemson football program as a whole went through? Through all of the strife and the peaceful demonstration that they had in June, and even dating to now, where Saturday they had their demonstration of unity between the first and second quarters. Like I said, a really general question, hard for you to really tackle all that, but I'm just curious for your sort of surface thoughts on that for now.
Oh, my service thoughts on that, it was beautiful, because that's really that goes back to the diversity of thought in a sense, for the fact that when you think about it and you read through the comments, you read through the reaction, you hear the reactions, how different people feel about it. And again, but what happens is the conversation stops right there. I don't like them to do that because of this. And, make that statement and then it stops. Well, I'm doing this because of this, and then it stops. That conversation is not explored and not dug into deeper, for the fact of, I just can't get with the fact that they do that, and that is a serious problem. But I think, my thoughts on it, it was beautiful to stand there, because in sports, you just go back to remember the Titans, and you remember that whole thing, the integration of the school for the first time during that era, and what those guys went through when they got on the bus to go to camp, and how they were when they came out of camp. Sports is its own culture of itself, and it strips people of, not entirely, but in a way, it strips people of their personal identity and opens them up to a new culture. So now, where I'm from don't matter. What I look like don't really matter. What really comes out, I really get to see the true individual, and now I'm able to bond with this guy because we have a common thread. We play ball together. So that bonds us, and through that bond, we're able to build other bonds. So, it's just a perfect example of what can happen when you truly allow the spirit of unity to get involved in your everyday action. So, hey, I may not like the fact, you got guys on the team. Some people like country music. Some people like rap music. I can't stand country music. I can't stand rap music. But I still love you. I still play with you. We still have good conversations. And that's what our nation is fighting over, because you can't get past the differences that we have to see the similarities and build on the similarities. And that demonstration that it did basically pointed out, look, you look across the different sizes, shapes, colors. We come from different places. We have different cultural experience. But when it comes to this thing of football and my brotherhood, this is what we have when we stand united. So in an overarching speech, it just speaks volumes. It was beautiful.
So the in the opener, I guess a lot of controversy was stirred up when some players elected to put a Black Lives Matter sticker on the back of their helmets. All manner of I guess vitriol on social media in response to it. People saying that hey, I'm done with Clemson. Obviously, not all of them, of course, but still enough to where it had momentum. A prominent former Clemson player, African American, called me last week very distressed about the reaction on the part of the Clemson folks he saw on social media. There was a restaurant owner in downtown Clemson who posted on Facebook that football players are talented, but they must not be very intelligent if they are putting that symbol on their helmets. I'm assuming that you saw a good bit of this. Maybe you didn't, but I'm just curious what your reaction to that reaction was.
It just speaks to the ignorance of so many people it speaks to the closed-mindedness of so many people, and it just shows you how far we need to go. We've come a long way, but how much further we have to go as a people for someone to, okay, I'm just going to disassociate with them because they put this on their helmet, or they want to wear this sticker. And when you actually ask them, so why are you so upset at the fact that this sticker is put on the helmet? And then you really can get a true answer. Something as something as shallow, like, well, football is my time to get away, and I don't want politics or anything else going on. But then you'll come to a game in October, you'll wear pink. There's no issue with you putting pink on, for breast cancer awareness, but you have an issue with people speaking up about, the disparities of how, Black people are treated in our nation. And again, you say that with understanding that, it's not just, it's happening. It's happening. So many people want to deny the fact that it's happening and play it down. And that reminder, I don't know what it does. I'm about to start speculating. I'm gonna stay away from doing that. But it just baffles me that instead of, okay, well, you're putting the sticker on your helmet and this is what you feel. Let's talk about this. Let's walk through it and let me see. But no, you turn a blind eye and say, that you're just going to be done with Clemson football because they put a sticker on their helmet, which is just so hypocritical when you look at everything else they do during the games. You want to talk about political, this is a regular avenue, but you'll get, you make sure you stand up and you salute the flag and you sing the Star Spangled Banner, you do those things. If that's not political, then it just doesn't add up. If you can give me a clear, I'm sure someone probably can't articulate their stance on it, but I just haven't seen it. The stances and the reasons behind not supporting this, and it doesn't really add up. It doesn't add up to why you are so bothered and so upset with them putting a sticker in the helmet that is speaking about being able to, if you got a problem with Black Lives Matter, okay, maybe. But then how in the world do you get upset with the sticker that says unity? How are you bothered by unity? Goes back to the demonstration between when they locked arms to show unity. Why are you upset with unity? That just begs another question. You have different opinions. Like I said, you got different opinions about the Black Lives Matter movement, but how can you be bothered with the unity? So these are the questions you ask, and you got to think about a person who has a problem with unity, and you're talking about. You actually look at who are the ones that are really upset about it and bothered, and that begins to paint a picture. So these are the things you just got to ask yourself, what is really going on that this upsets you? What's happening within you that this statement or these stickers bother you to a degree that you would speak such venom towards these young kids or the school system or whatever? What is going on within you that you allow yourself to get that upset and speak the way you do about a showing of unity and wanting equality for everyone?
Now, back in June when they had their peaceful demonstration, it was almost universally celebrated and embraced. You think that the main thing that has changed is some fans, they don't want it interfering with their Saturdays, that's the biggest factor there, or they're saying, hey, you had your moment in June, let's just move on and focus totally on football?
That's tough to say. Who knows? Like I said, I want to stay away from just speculating.
Sure.
Because I don't read I read some stuff, but then, just as quick as I read it, I forget it because, it just doesn't, a lot of that stuff doesn't sit well. And then I also got to remember that sometimes people will go in to these chat sessions and going to these articles just for the sake of stirring strife. So a lot of those comments might not even reflect what Clemson Nation is all about, or the different people are really about. But then you also got to realize that some people do actually feel that way. So it's just a balancing scale trying to figure all this stuff out. But it's to speak to exactly, no one really knows exactly why certain people respond the way they do. Because, again, the conversation never gets past that point. Or the conversation never gets to a point to where sides are understanding one another. It's I got my view and I have my point. You have your view, you have your point, but neither one of them is putting themselves on the other side to really come to an equitable solution or understanding of thought to be able to move forward. And that's the biggest issue. We don't get past the fact that I disagree with the sticker. Oh, well, you disagree with the sticker, and it stops right there. That's the issue. That's the problem. No one really wants to have that conversation.
The sort of ironic thing is that while grown men and women are tearing each other up on social media all over the place, you have a group of 120 football players who don't all believe the same thing, who are, there is diversity of political thought, social thought, all that stuff, and I'm sure there were some strong disagreements internally, but they have found a way to settle their differences and to continue loving each other and to move forward in a unified way.
Right. And it talks about a child shall lead them. So it's just so trying to get to the point where you throw your hands up, trying to figure this thing out. However, in that same mindset, if you want to see the change, you got to dig down. You really got to dig down, and despite the circumstances, despite the people, the person, or whatever, you have to do what's right, and you have to go with your convictions, and this thing, be willing to be wrong. This is my stance. I've done my research, and that's the point. A lot of people don't do the research. They don't look into stuff. What they hear from a news article or from an authority figure or someone, they'll hear that soundbite, and that becomes their ideology. That becomes their thought process, and they have no idea, what it really means or if it's even factual. But because I'm a Republican and a Republican says this is law, this is my thought process, and this is what I'm going to spew. If I'm a Democrat, if I hear a Democrat say this is this is my thought, this is my view. And as you look, it's just like when I listen to people, I just listen to these conversations, it's the same canned responses from people. You hear the same thing from, and it blows my mind that no one is saying anything different. Police brutality, you got an issue with police brutality. Well, what about black on black crime? If you say, if there's one talk on one side, there's a response that's going to come from the other side. And it is not different than any other person. And that's the problem I have. Now, if that's what your thought process is, and you can actually have talking points and stats and information to back up what you're saying, that's different. But all that's being said is these canned responses, which lets me know that you're just parroting what someone else has said or what you heard someone else say. And that's the biggest problem. Like I said, the conversations are not going deep enough. The conversations are remaining on the surface, and you can't do much change on the surface.
Yeah, we have a real media problem in that things now, it's like people seek out whatever media outlet confirms what they think they believe. And so it's just further entrenched views instead of challenging views or having a reasonable, intelligent discourse about an issue.
Mm-hmm. And that speaks to just, we talk about it, something I was learning in my class just this past week. When you talk about, the expectation, it's called the expectation law, Whereas if I'm doing research and I'm researching and I have a certain belief about something, all I notice is what aligns with my thought process. Now, these other things that are counter to my thought process, they're there. But because of my conviction, because of my thought process, all I see is what aligns with my thought process. I don't recognize these other things that are counter to or that are also evident. So that skews my research and it makes my research invaluable. I mean, not invaluable, but not supportive enough, because I'm actually, because of my own biases and my own thought processes, I'm missing all this other crucial data that will, give me a different outlook on my research. So that's where a lot of Americans are. I recognize, this is what I think, this is what I believe. So everything I see, and I only recognize that which aligns with my ideology, my thought process, and my beliefs, and I ignore all the different stuff because I don't pay attention to it, and that's a serious problem. That's one thing you talk about scientists. They said, it's good to be a skeptic in the science world. Because as a skeptic, it's more like, you have to show me, you have to prove this to me. I need all the evidence, and I need to put all this evidence together and see what the evidence tells me. When you do that, you get a better understanding of what's really happening. But not too many people are willing to see all the evidence, see all the information, or even take the time to get the information. You want other people to do it for them. You want people to do it for you. So we just run into that issue as a vicious cycle of, I'm only seeing what I want to see. And when you see only what you want to see, it closes you off to everything else that's available. And again, that is a serious problem.
You said you were in a class last week?
Yeah, I'm getting my master's. So I was this past week's study. One of the words was that, and that's what I was studying. It was testing a question on the test. So that's what that was.
What are you getting your master's in?
Psychology, developmental psychology.
Wow, excellent. Your father, before you came to Clemson, he told you don't go up there to just be a football player.
Correct.
How much of an impact did that have on your college experience?
It pulled me out of the football world. I was in it, but it didn't become my identity. My identity is Woodrow Dantzler III. That is my identity. I'm the son of Woodrow and Moselle Dantzler. I am the son of the one and only true God. That's my identity. Football is a part of me. It's something that I do. It's not who I am. So allow me to get out and meet diverse group of people. So because of the calling on my life, if I would have stayed in that football bubble, I will only be able to relate to just this certain demographic of people. But the fact that I was out meeting people, because, we got exchange students coming from Africa, from Europe, and, from different parts of the country, different countries. I'm able to meet these people, talk with them, kind of get some of their manner, understand where they're from. And now when I get out and I'm in the world, I'm able to move and I'm able to interact with different people and different cultures because of that experience at Clemson. And it proved to be so valuable. That was just such great advice from my father. It proved to be so valuable that it allowed me to be able to grow even the more, because I was able to learn from these different people, and it allowed me, as I grew, to be able to continue to meet and relate to different people and to build relationships, because there's a common curiosity that I have. I really want to understand people. I don't want to just put my premeditated judgments or thoughts on them. Let them tell you, like what I said, Maya Angelou would say, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. So I'm not going up there and already have in my mind what this person is like, because again, that goes back to me not being able to recognize these other things that may contradict my thought process. I want to go in there with an open mind and allow them to show me who they are. And from there, you're able to build true and genuine relationships. And then you know who you can align yourself with and who you shouldn't align yourself with. So that's just what that piece of advice has done for me.
Part of, I guess, a revelation from all the racial strife this summer on my account has been, and what I've asked or encouraged other people to do is just take some time to listen to the experiences and perspectives of African Americans, and we had Patrick Sapp and Harold Dutch Coleman on the podcast several months ago. Really powerful recollections and perspectives on their part. So I would give you an opportunity now to let me and others listen to your experience and maybe some of your perspectives that maybe people don't know about. Just as an African American growing up in Orangeburg, coming to Clemson, predominantly white community and enrollment. Is there anything you'd like to share from that perspective?
Well, and that's the thing, I call it just God's hand being on me. I have not had those types of experiences into which I felt as if I was. Well, I take that back. I can have it. I think I've been in one. I've been in actually no. And I haven't really had the experience with a cop in where or recognized. I'm not gonna say I haven't been in it, but I haven't recognized it, and I think that just kind of plays to my naiveness. So I'm not gonna say that it doesn't happen. I can remember, when I was in an area one time being pulled over and and then the cop asking if he could search my vehicle. And me, I'm being young again, naive, didn't really know the law. I told him to shut up because I didn't have anything. I mean, little did I know that I was because I was looking for someone's house. I was driving back and forth. I was kind of driving a little slow. And, they pulled me over. I didn't know I was in a drug area. So he had to search my car. So I didn't come up with anything. But still, it's just those different things of I haven't had a bad experience with the cop. Yeah, I've had a cop come, pull me over for speeding or something, and he had an attitude, but it didn't turn into anything. But as far as experience, blatant, in your face, that type of racism, I haven't had any real personal experiences. But that does not say it has not happened. I've had friends, I've had family members express these things to me. And I think that's the biggest issue. And you just mentioned it, listen and try to hear the experience. So many people believe, a lot of times from the white community, so many of the white, they believe that because it hasn't happened to them or they haven't experienced it, that it's not true. And that's the biggest problem. I haven't experienced it as a black man in this country. In my 40 years on this earth, I have not experienced that I've recognized. I'll say that. I haven't recognized anything, because I can be in there with my wife, and my wife will notice different things that I was oblivious to. And she said, this was this because, and she could point it out, but I miss it. Now, just because I haven't personally had that experience, it doesn't mean that it does not happen. And that's where you fall. And, you'll hear the statement, everyone has the ability, everyone has that. Everyone has equal opportunity. And, everyone has the ability. Not really. The best thing I saw an illustration of, there was a white guy. They were running a race, and let's say the race was about 50 yards. And the white guy was in the lane. He had two little small hurdles in his lane. And then the black guy in his lane, he had, a moat. He had alligators, had a barbed wire fence, had a ditch, a trench, a brick wall. It's the same distance, but you're not encountering the same obstacles. And that's what a lot of people a lot of white Americans don't understand. Now, there are a lot of white Americans who do understand and do what they do, to try to, knock down some of those barriers and get involved and help out. But there's a lot that do not recognize that as Black people in America, there are obstacles and there are setbacks and there are issues that we face that are tougher. We are, you talk to a lot of Black families and, you're always taught you got to be better. You got to be that much better. If you're on an even playing field, even if you're, on an even playing field, you're going to look at as less. So you got to be better. You got to do everything right. You can't make a mistake. That goes back to the conversation. When a cop pulls you over, make sure you put your hands on the window. You had to pull it over a conversation. White people, you don't see them having that pull. They're not having that pulled over conversation. It's not something that they can fathom, a cop, being afraid of their skin color and doing something illegal. So one of those, that's what people have to recognize. Have to recognize that there are innate differences. And when you can sit and listen and understand that, just because it's not your experience doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So those are the things that we must recognize. And then, like I said, I haven't, in my experience, had any of that. But it still doesn't stop me from recognizing that this stuff does happen, that stuff needs to change. And it allows me to be able to push to still see things happen.
Dabo Swinney was, in the spring and summer, at a time during a period of a few weeks, was a massive target of criticism from mainly the national media for some things he said, maybe for some things he did not say, I guess for a shirt that he wore. As someone who knows Dabo well, as someone who knows the support system that he has put in place for his players, not just as players, but as players who are going to be done with football at some point and who have to, be prepared for life. What did you make of that time when he was getting really just hammered by a lot of voices nationally?
That response can go in so many different directions, because the biggest issue with it all is, what word do I want to use? And this is probably not a real word, but just the micro picking that takes place on social media, that takes place on the media. If I look at something, and I could take it and pull it out of context, like you mentioned the shirt, what did they call it? What did they say?
Does football matter?
We're talking about big. Yeah, football matters, not that, but they'll say, you're tone deaf. All these different words that begin to pop up. You're tone deaf, unconscious bias, all these words that begin to pop up and circulate. And it really puts you in a place to where you pretty much gotta be outside of the public eye to not be called out.
Yeah.
Now, is there something innately wrong with that shirt? He's a football coach. That's what he's done all his life. Is there really something that bad about, football matters? Is it really that bad when you really step back and look at, the course of like, what has he done? The circle of people he surrounds himself with, the caliber of athletes and people that he go and deal with and work with on a daily basis that he generally cares about. So it's too easy. It's too easy from the outside looking in to make a statement and say, well, he wore the shirt. Yeah, he said this, but what he should have said is this. How can you tell someone how to speak from their heart? And who's the person who wrote, what needs to be said and how it needs to be said in order to get a pass or to be deemed viable, or someone does something, have to make an apology. Who who's the one who wrote the script that said this is how an apology should be if it's heartfelt. Otherwise, it's just, I'm just putting out. Well, there's so much that goes on and goes into that macro level of micro judging. It's such a big, broad topic, but, then get really specific with it. So, it's too much. It really is too much. We got so many different opinions out there based on different expectations, and there's just so many differences out there that it's wild. It's wild.
And based usually not on, learning more about the nuance of a particular situation. Like in this case, it would have been learning about what he's done to set up these players, not, black, white, whatever, how much focus he has put on, hey, guys, football is going to end, and when it does, you have to be ready. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he said all the right things, but
right. And I'll be the first one to say that. He steps out of line. He said something that might have been. He has, in my opinion, he said a couple of things that were insensitive, and he shouldn't have said, especially in his, with the platform that he has. And so, when you recognize that, you can build off of that. But to continuously, what happens is, my issue that I take is the very thing that we despise as a community, and it goes both ways, be it the black community or the white community. The very thing that we despise the other community doing is exactly what we do. Let's say we as the black community, I don't like you to look at me and judge me because I'm a black man. So now you feel threatened. You think I'm a drug dealer or I'm a criminal because I'm a black man walking in the neighborhood. Maybe I got a hoodie on. So now you judge me that I'm a criminal. I don't like that. But then I'll turn right around, and because you're white and you're a cop, I'm going to call you a racist. That makes absolutely no sense. And you flip it around. Don't call me a racist. I'm not a racist because I'm white and I'm a cop. But I really do. I'll look at you and say, oh, you fit the description, or you wear baggy pants. You're in, so now I believe you're in a gang because I'm looking. That to me is so trite. It's so unnecessary. It's so minuscule that people, actually do things like that. But, the double standard is the issue. Like I said, the very thing that you despise, you do it. Like I said, that's happening on both sides. And when we get to a place where we can move past the surface and dig a little deeper, open our minds a bit more, and have an agreement upon, what's right and what's wrong, and move on from there, things will begin to change a little faster. And you're seeing a lot of change now. But you still, you just had an issue right here in Spartanburg. You have a police chief stand up and say, even though, apparently, they arrested these two black kids for suspicion. They thought they were shooting at cops. Turns out there was no evidence to hold them. There was nothing that they can do to, so they ended up letting them go. But the police chief goes on Facebook Live and media and do a post where, well, we would have been justified if we would have shot them. Why would you? First of all, you had no evidence from the solicitor. The solicitor said there's no evidence, there's nothing that points or ties into this issue or this crime, so you got to let them go. After you let them go, you go on social media and said, you'd have been perfectly justified in shooting them. Jeez. And that's the stuff. That's the stuff that the black community is talking about. And there will be no, and what we've seen is the fact that he'll stand up there at a city council meeting and make this statement, and then nothing happens to him.
Right.
And then you in the city council meeting, after he makes his statement, you see the white people in that city council meeting clapping and standing up as if he just gave a great speech.
Wow. I have not seen this.
Yeah.
This was recently?
This was last night.
Oh, my goodness.
The city council meeting in Spartanburg took place last night. And like I said, and that's the stuff that we as a Black community see all too often. And they said, we understand that we don't have the racism. Well, I ain't saying we don't have racism. It's not to the degree to where it was extremely, outright systematic as, when laws, Jim Crow laws and the separate and all that different stuff, the white only water fountains and the black, it's not that, but it's still there. It's not in the specific law books, as you would say, if you want to really constitute as systematic, but there's still some underlying stuff that takes place systematically. It's like the unwritten laws that take place that, the Black community, we in the Black community have to deal with and have to fight through and suffer through, that as any other community are not seeing it and they don't recognize because it's not happening. And when it's come up, because you haven't experienced it, then it's not real. And again, just pointing back to the situation that happened last night, yesterday evening, he says this stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you don't understand all the evidence, or you hear that come out. But you just heard where it said there was no evidence that linked him to the crime. But after this happens, again, he stands up and says, we've been justified. We shot them. So, and that's what people don't get, and that's what people don't want to get, and that's what people don't want to understand. They want to stay in the bubble of the blissful world that this stuff is not happening, it's being overblown, and it's not. No, this stuff is happening, and it's happening far too often. Even with the cameras now that's pointing this out a little bit more, social media, it's still a lot more prevalent than people than what's being shown, even with the advance of social media and camera phones.
Harris Flooring has been a major part of the facilities enhancements over at Clemson, not just with athletics, but also at the university level. And we are thrilled that they are a part of the Dubcast as a sponsor. Since 1947, the Junkins family and Harris Flooring have provided a unique shopping experience through value in their services, developing the right product solutions, and delivering on their promises. To check out some reviews on their work, just go to their Facebook page, Harris Flooring America. Rave reviews, just first class all the way. Phone number 864-642-6183. Happy to have Founders Federal Credit Union on board as a sponsor with us. If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTE members. Matt Gross is a proud Clemson alum and the vice president for the Clemson market for Founders Federal Credit Union. Matt's office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. When you see Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and others doing their thing in the NFL in offenses that are largely tailored to their talents, given the skill set that you had when you played at Clemson, what goes through your mind? I'm guessing, being the person you are, you're not like angry about it, but I'm just curious, like, what the possibilities would have been for you had offensive innovation happened back when you were going to the NFL.
Honestly, I'm just happy to play my role in it, and I'm happy to see these guys get out there and showcase what we've known all along. But truthfully, what really goes through my mind is I can't wait for this not to be the topic of conversation, honestly. I can't wait for, hey, why can't be just Russell Wilson, or Lamar Jackson. It has to be black quarterback, white quarterback. First black to do this, first black to great achievements. I love it. I'm all for it. I'm not knocking it, but I want to live in a society where that's not news. It's just Russell Wilson. It's just Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's a quarterback in the NFL. Kyler Murray is a quarterback, not a black quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, just to be.
When you talk about Tom Brady, you don't hear them say white quarterback with Tom Brady.
Yeah, just to be fair, you could also. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Woody, but I was
go ahead.
I was just going to sort of rephrase or clarify the question. I guess. I mean, it could, in my mind at least, you're also talking about Johnny Manziel, Josh Allen, just really athletic, dual threat quarterbacks. Period. Where offenses now are finally, it seems, rather than asking the quarterback to adapt to the system, now they are adapting their systems to accommodate the talents of the quarterback. I guess that's more where I was going. But that just goes to, as I've always spoke, and that goes to the evolution of the game. When you look at these guys on the other side of the ball, the first thing that kind of comes to mind, you think about like Jadeveon Clowney, someone that big, that strong, that fast, that who can basically do whatever he wants. Aaron Donaldson, you watch him take out 2 linemen at one time. You got to have somebody in that as a QB that can move around a little bit, be a little bit more mobile. And actually, gives more problems because the guys on defense are so much more athletic. Even the linebackers, as big as they are, they're fast, they're strong, they're quick, they're able to move now. So you got to have a guy at quarterback to counteract that and can move around a little bit when these guys are coming that way. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just the evolution of the game, and now the actual coaches, the NFL as a whole, are coming off of their high horse of what they believe a quarterback should be. 6'5", 6'6", 6'2", 230, stand back there, rocking up an arm. That's good and all, but, you still got to be able to move a little bit because these guys on defense are just that much, so much more talented than what they used to be. When you guys were doing stuff under Rich Rodriguez in starting in 99 that nobody else was doing, did you have a thought at the time that this was the wave of the future and that there'd be a time where just about everybody was doing some of that same type of stuff with the reads and the single wing type of approach?
I'm not going to lie and say that I kind of saw, it kind of taking over like the way it did. But I did see it as the next evolution because, again, just talking about as offenses adapt, defenses adapt. And you see that it goes back and forth. So, again, as the guys on defense get bigger, faster, stronger, you got to do more ways to really counteract that by having your own guys on offense who are big, fast, strong, quick, elusive. So being able to take advantage of that, really, I was seeing it as a next evolution. But to the magnitude of where it is right now and actually really getting into the NFL like it is starting to do right now, I can't say that I saw that coming. It was a thought, but I didn't think it would be here this soon.
When you sit down and watch Trevor Lawrence play football, what is that like for you?
For me, it brings back the kind of what I played with, just and not just Trevor, other guys. It just brings back what football is about. It's a game. We're going out there to compete, have fun, showcase skills. Really about showcasing skills. I mean, you do showcase your skills when you're on the field, but what it's really about is just going out there having fun and playing with your brothers. And that's what I see. You see the excitement when one person, makes a play. You see how they celebrate one another. You see how he leads by example, his mannerisms, how he talks to his guys, how he builds them up, how he celebrates with them. And that's what it's about. It's just the camaraderie, the competitiveness, and just the me and my words. It's just the funness of a football game or any game. So that's what I see. I just see a kid out there having fun in his element.
I couldn't help but think watching the Miami game the other night, they have the turnover chain. I mean, I swear it's like they have a parade, a sideline parade when they get a turnover. Not that there's necessarily anything fundamentally wrong with that, because like you just said, it's about fun. But to me, at least, it really reinforces how Clemson, their players are always zoned in on the next play. And even though they're having fun, it's still very businesslike. And then there's a dialed-in nature to that culture, I guess. Does that make sense? And do you see the same thing?
Yeah, I do. And again, it's recognized. It's just the culture of the team. And again, even with speaking about the Miami and how they're doing, you see other teams, they got their own rendition of the turnover chain. Maybe it's the axe, or maybe it's whatever it is. A lot of teams have adopted that, and they have their own. But it's the culture of that team, and they're able to execute and work because it's an incentive. So now, I got the turnover chain. Next guy, the guy on my on defense with me, he sees I got a turnover chain. Oh, I want to get the turnover chain too. So what do? Now I'm gonna go back in. When I get back in, I'm focused because I want to make sure I'm doing my assignment to put myself in a position to where I can, get that turnover chain. But with Clemson, it's just more of I'm celebrating here. By the time we get back to the bench, now I'm refocusing it on the next play. It's just the culture of each team, and it works well. Those incentives, it works really well.
Woody, is there anything we haven't talked about you'd like to talk about, or is there anything about your LLC or other endeavors you wanna share just to promote for the listeners?
Oh no, not much. I'm just like I said, I always look for opportunities to build with people. I love conversations, and that's kind of what my speaking, takes a toll. And what I just did, I actually just did a rebranding. I kind of launched my speaking under Wood Speaks. But in my daring to be different, as I thought about it, I kind of rebranded myself as Wood in Pieces. So now as Wood in Pieces, because when I speak, I'm transparent. I'm basically sharing my life. I'm sharing lessons that I learned and stuff that I've been taught, stuff that I've embraced. And essentially, I'm an open diary when I speak. So that's why I rebranded myself Wooden Pieces. So I have something to say, and I'm compelled to say it. And it's all about, again, helping people recognize their greatness, unlock it, and walk into it. And there's so many different facets that entails. Being able to get people to actually begin to take responsibility for their own path in life. Getting people to be able to understand what the process is like, being able to endure the process, being able to talk about discipline, what really means to be disciplined, and, one of the biggest things, again, going back to education, really instilling in people that learning mentality, that lifelong learner thing, you always seek to grow by gaining information and learning and being able to apply it. So all these different topics that I like to embrace on, but the biggest thing is, just being able to let people know how great they are and what they can do to operate in their greatness, because, the greatness that I have, the greatness that you have, the greatness that individuals have is not self-serving. It's people-serving. You were given these gifts and talents for other people. And if you're not able to recognize it and develop it, then what you have just done, you just done a disservice to your fellow man. And that's what I want to get people to realize. You are here for a purpose, and the gifts that you have are going to allow you to serve in your purpose and to serve people. And that's what makes humanity great. That's what will make humanity great, when each individual is operating in their greatness and seeking to help out others. So, just that's really the biggest thing. I just want opportunities to get out and speak and talk and share and have conversations. That's what it's about for me.
Woody Dantzler, what a fine example of servant leadership. Thank you for deciding to be a force of change in your community with all the stuff you're doing with the schools and otherwise as well. Very impressive, and I know that a lot of folks in the community and beyond are proud of what you've become.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
All right, that'll do it. Wow. Woody Dantzler, impressive person, to say the least. Appreciate him sharing his time with us. Also appreciate our very loyal sponsors. Please patronize them as much as you can. Also, all the businesses around your area that you know and love. Really appreciate all y'all listening, and we'll be back next week. Cheers.